Sort of my routine and my attitude. My routine around the classes that I'm taking and the homework and, just constant pressure that's kind of taken over. And then my attitude with that is that it's dire, it's sort of I've got to do kind of like a treadmill sort of thing. So there is some dread around that, actually. It's not like having a tsunami about to hit me, but it's still dread around. And actually, I enjoy many parts of what I'm studying. It's just the pressure of the deadlines, the grades, the trying to figure out how I'll be graded, all that. It just all comes together in a way that's tough to that weighs on me. It's like the joyful parts of it are being outdone by some of the pressures.
But in the end, is it outdone by the joy?
Joy is outdone by the dread.
The joy is outdone by the dread. Yes, excuse me.
Well, I don't know. I was thinking about what you said about me being a perfectionist. I'd rather have perfect dread or perfect joy than perfect dread.
Me too. I was not saying you are a perfectionist. I was wondering if there is any of that in you that you've ever seen before, just because it had come up. But I don't know if we could label you as a perfectionist necessarily. I was asking because I read an article about people who oftentimes don't want to attack a big issue unless they know it can be finished perfectly. And there was just some similarities that were resonating with me when you were saying that. So I was just curious if that any of that sounded familiar, because if that's the case, we could work on things like not necessarily seeing the big hill there is to climb, but all the steps along the way, and in the end it could be perfect, but it just seems like so much sometimes. And I am hearing a little bit of that in when you talk about your family or in moving, but you also sound like a very resourceful person who sees a lot of possibilities and thinks really critically about all these different aspects and possibilities of your life. And so I think you're a really dynamic woman, and it's good talking with you. So I think our time is running out today, but some things I wanted to talk about next week and see if you could think about other ways to address your family and get them to see who you really are. And I don't know if that's possible, but maybe think about ways you could get your siblings to sit down with you and maybe rebuild a relationship that could be meaningful. Because we all make choices in our lives about who to spend our time with and how we're going to be spending our time. And time seems to be a big value of yours, in my opinion, what I've seen. And you wanting to spend your time well and with people you love and in places that feel like home. And so over the next week, just maybe journal or reflect or jot down some ideas you may have about the things you are doing and the things you are spending your time on, and if those are meaningful enough to continue doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of go from there and talk about what they mean to you and if they're meaningful enough to continue pursuing. So a home and schooling and family relationships and your exercise and being with nature. Maybe getting you in touch with more of that fun time you were talking about.
Mhm.
So maybe it'll feel less like a big tsunami wave. How does that sound?
That sounds very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marilyn. Was that enough time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a quarter till you were at half an hour.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you did great. That was great.
Really well.
I was
Thanks.
listening to you and I was like, oh my gosh. It's like half of what you were saying I could completely relate to.
Me too.
You're like